A common question that I receive normally is how we handle agile contracts and hybrid projects, even in agile framework. So traditional procurement contracts assumes that there is fixed scope, a fixed timeline, and fixed cost, which works well for predictive or waterfall projects, but it's not suited for agile environments where the work or the scope evolves. Agile contracts focus on value driven delivery and shared risk and iterative work agreements. The procurement teams must adapt to new contracting models that supports the flexibility while ensuring the accountability. What are the challenges that you might face when trying to implement the traditional contracts in agile projects? So, traditional procurement processes rely on detailed upfront planning and strict deliverables and change control mechanisms. And these rigid structures do not align with agile methodology, where the requirements evolve based on the feedback. And sometimes vendors are unfamiliar with agile who may resist, let's say, iterative contracts, fearing sometimes to scope creep and financial risks. The legal teams must adjust their contract language to ensure the clarity while preserving the agile flexibility. So again, the traditional contracts are based on fixed deliverables, making agile changes difficult. And the vendors may resist to use agile contracts due to the uncertain payment structure and the fear of scope creep, where the let's say the role of the legal teams must let's say work on these contractual with agile let's say iterative environment to accommodate these agile flexibility. Now let's look at some of these types of agile contracts. So agile contracts come in different forms to balance the risk, the flexibility, and control. First, you have the first type, which is called the time and material, which is a payment is based maybe on work hours, or maybe depends on the number of user stories, which allows the flexibility in terms of contracting in agile projects. The next type you have here in Agile contract is a fixed capacity contracts where the clients pay for a dedicated Agile team, not a fixed scope. So maybe you contract with an Agile team who you preserve for 6 months, 3 months to deliver the output or to deliver the features that you're looking to implement, not as the traditional way where you have a fixed scope. The fourth type we have here is incremental delivery contracts, where the payment is tied to specific agile iteration. So you agree with the agile team to release maybe milestones or to release payment invoices after maybe the sixth iteration or the fifth iteration or the third iteration. It depends on let's say the project deliverables that you're looking to implement within your iterations. And the fourth type here we have is gain share or incentive based contract, where you reward the vendor for delivering a high business value. So the more the agile team is being delivering a value to you, then the more that you can incentive them. The time and material contracts, it works well for agile projects which have evolving requirements. But when it comes to fixed capacity model, it provides a stable team allocation while allowing the scope flexibility. When it comes to the incremental delivery contracts, you ensure that the payment are tied to agile sprints or iteration, as I mentioned. And the fourth type of contract we have here is the incentive based contract, where you align the vendor performance with the business outcomes. And here are key elements that each agile contract should have, where it depends on, let's say, the agreement that you can have with the company or with the agile team that they are working to deliver the value to you. So, an effective agile contract should emphasize the value delivery or the value driven deliverables rather than just fixed outputs. Unlike the traditional contract, agile agreements embrace the change, encourage the collaboration, and ensure the shared responsibility. Payment structures should be linked to business outcomes, quality, and incremental progress rather than just rigid milestones. So, again, these elements that should be in the agile contracts, including the value based deliverables, where you focus on achieving the business goals, not just the output, and the change friendly clauses, where you allow for scope evolution within agile iteration, with also having a collaborative governance to encourage continuous client vendor interaction and flexible payment models. Uh, with the payments, as I mentioned, it's tied to iterative progresses, not just milestones. And here also some of the procurement strategies that being used for agile projects. So agile procurement strategies requires a shift from lengthy RFP processes to faster and iterative selection models. Remember that when we talked about when we were planning the procurement, where we have prepared an RFP or request for proposal, where you list all of these detailed, let's say, scope, all of the deliverables, the specification, the quality requirements, and it goes for let's say selection criteria, where where you receive the responses from these bidders or these vendors, and then you start evaluating these RFPs responses. Based on that, you go for a selection, let's say, criteria, where you list all of the criteria to let's say to choose the correct vendor or the correct bidder that meets your qualification or selection criteria. So here, agile procurement, it requires a shift from these lengthy RFP processes to a faster iterative selection model. Again, the traditional procurement often results in long vendor selection cycles, but agile requires a quick onboarding of partners or vendors or bidders who can deliver the value incrementally. The contracts should be designed for short term engagement with the option to extend to ensure the adaptability. So, we have these key strategies when handling the procurement in agile projects, including lean procurement, where it enables a faster vendor selection through iterative evaluation. We also have collaborative vendor selection, where you engage vendors early in agile discussions. We also have the incremental contracting, where you break down the project into smaller or manageable agreements to choose the bidder, or maybe to assign agile team to deliver a certain part of the project, and the other agile team who can, let's say, continue with different part of the project. So it depends on the project requirements, the time, the materials, the, let's say, the quality requirements that you have, the value that you're looking to deliver to the end users. So it depends on all of these aspects before going with one of these strategies. When it comes to the legal consideration when handling agile contracts, so contracts in agile must allow the continuous collaboration and adaptation. And legal teams must adapt contracts to agile workflows by ensuring the transparent collaboration models and adaptable termination clauses, and having the property protections, the intellectual property protections, where agile teams can evolve continuously. So contracts should include clear provisions for scope changes, while defining who owns the let's say the right or the intellectual property at different development stages. So again, these are some of the legal considerations that you might look in when implementing agile contracts, such as the continuous collaboration and adaptation and termination clauses, which should enable pivoting without having heavy penalties, and ensuring the intellectual property or the IP protection to align with agile code development processes. When handling risk management in agile procurement, so agile contracts should include risk sharing agreements where both the vendor and the client takes a joint responsibility for managing the uncertainties. We also have the let's say the service level agreement or the SLAs, which should be based on business outcomes and quality standards and performance metrics rather than just having a strict feature delivery. And with following all of these risk management strategies, with having a joint responsibility and SLAs, you allow for a progressive risk reviews and at agile milestones. But how you ensure the vendor collaboration in agile contracts? So in agile projects, the vendors should be active partners rather than just an external service providers. By involving them in daily stand-up meetings, sprint reviews, sprint retrospectives, and backlog refinement session, the clients ensures the alignment with also having performance-based contract to motivate the vendors to contribute beyond basic contract obligations. So when you have a good relationship with these vendors, you integrate their processes into your project with continuous feedback. The vendor will feel being, let's say, partners of your project and the partner of your value and success. So it shift from the fixed delivery models to partnership based contract where you can enhance the relationship between you and the vendors. Also it fosters the open collaboration with the vendors in agile ceremonies, and by using a performance based incentive to drive the vendor engagement, you ensure that the vendor will let's say deliver a value at the end of the let's say the project. Let's now look at one of these case study for agile procurement and one of these government projects. So government projects typically uses a long and fixed procurement cycle, following maybe the waterfall methodology or approach, but agile approaches are changing that. So the governments are shifting towards the incremental funding models where the vendors delivers in small and approved increments rather than just committing to multi-year projects upfront. So the agile here or agile contract strategies can ensure the compliance with with the scope while maintaining the flexibility and scope as well. And here are some of the best practices when handling agile contracts and procurement. So again, we say that you need to customize the contract as project managers to allow the iterative scope changes to meet the project needs. Also by using KPIs, which is linked to value delivery instead of rigid deliverables. So remember that the value that we have looked into in terms of maybe enhancing the operational efficiency, reducing the reducing maybe the complexity within your processes, and delivering a features or a systems that let's say deliver a value to your end users. And by having a let's say a feedback loop with having a feedback mechanism that you collect the client or the customer satisfaction on these deliverables, this is the KPIs that we're looking at when linking it to the value delivery, instead of just delivering a set of functions that might not be used at the end of the project. Also, we talked about selecting the vendor based on agile collaboration capability to ensure that the let's say the vendors are partners, not just a vendor to you.